Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah.
La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. These are the words that I live by every day. My name is Mustafa Moore. I accepted Islam in 2004, and before I was a Muslim, I used to be in the streets. I was no thug or anything like that, but I hung out with some thugs, and we partied, and unfortunately, drinking and things like that. I converted by what I did was I read a little about the Quran. I read the Quran for like 2 or 3 days, and after that I wanted to know more. So I went to the library, and I found a book about the Prophet ﷺ, and in that book the Shahada was in there, and I believed in the book. I believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I believed in the Prophet ﷺ. So I said my Shahada, and I became Muslim, but I didn't know, because I had never seen a Muslim. I had never met a Muslim, and I didn't know what the Muslims did, or I didn't know any practices of Islam or anything like that. A friend of mine, well, this guy, he wasn't a friend, but he happened to have a Quran, and somebody told me that he had the Quran, but they said that he wasn't really using it. He was doing bad things. So I asked him, could I use it? And alhamdulillah, when I finally found the Quran, the Bible sets you up for Islam, because Allah says we'll know that it's Him by like Isaac, Jacob, so alhamdulillah, when and Yaqub, these names were in the Quran. And Moses and Isa, all of these names were in the Quran. So when I saw these names, I knew that there had to be something to it. In fact, it's hard for me to understand how there's such a discrepancy between Islam and Christianity. Islam is the natural progression of Christianity. If the Christians were to walk correctly, they would see that Islam is the next step, because Jesus alayhi salam, Isa, he said that there would be one after him, and he told the people to follow him. The Quran is the key to purification. Living the way that the Prophet ﷺ, the way that he says, the way that his Sahabas lived, the way that they believed. If we stick to this, we have no choice but to be pure. Because this is how they walked, this is how they talked. This is how they ate, this is how they slept. Just like how in the Bible, in the Quran, I believe it was Ibrahim, where he said something like, my life is to Allah, my death is to Allah, my eating, my sleeping. He said this, and this is how the Prophet ﷺ lived, and this is how the Sahaba, this is what they did. They didn't make a move without asking the Prophet ﷺ, is this halal? Can we do this? Do we leave this off? Whatever the Prophet said, this is what they did. So this is why they were the strongest in the world at the time, because they were the cleanest, and they didn't run away from that, they ran to it. So if we want to be pure, if we want to be clean, we have to turn ourselves back to the way that the Prophet ﷺ, he lived, and the way that the Sahaba lived. If we can follow this, we'll be the purest in the world, you know. We'll be the cleanest in the world.